Welcome to Impact and Influence, the podcast for real estate business owners and professionals who are ready to make a bigger impact, scale, have greater sustainability, and increase their influence. This series opens the door to the sharpest minds across the industry, including agency owners, advisors, and trusted partners who share real-world insights and lessons learnt. These are short, practical conversations designed to save you time, sharpen your strategy, and help you build a business by design, not by default. If you're responsible for growth, profit, client experience, leadership, recruitment, or retention, this podcast is your go-to for smarter choices and more decisive leadership. It's proudly presented by REGROWTH. We are a coaching and consulting business for the real estate arena. We help you build on capability, connection, and curiosity. I am thrilled today to be joined by Kerryn Saward from CBA, General Manager of Transaction Banking and Growth. Welcome.
Thank you, Kylie.
Pretty important to have you here today for our listeners because there's lots I want to share about your journey. We've had a lovely partnership with CBA over the last 12 months and it's getting stronger and stronger by the day. And it's been really lovely to get to know the people behind the bank as well. And that was really important when we started talking to you guys about the relationships and the client experience. And I know it's an ethos that your team hold dear. But before we get too much into your journey at CBA, I'm curious to know what got you to here. So tell us a little about your career, where you started out, and go right back to when you finished school, because we can learn so much.
I love it. Well, thank you. And I'm thrilled to be here. It's a fabulous podcast. I'm going to go before I left school because I actually think the seeds of how you show up as a leader are planted actually in your childhood. And I was brought up with a really entrepreneurial small business mother and someone who would hustle to get something delivered for people and deeply cared about looking after people and delivering on experiences. So she, I think, ingrained that in me from a young age. So worked throughout high school, part-time jobs in small businesses, helping them grow. I remember being 15, working in the local pet shop on the weekends and helping them do bundles and working through their pricing.
You're joking.
I kid you not. I kid you not.
When you say an entrepreneurial mum, tell us about mum. What did mum do?
So mum was a hairdresser and beautician.
And had her own business?
Had her own businesses.
Okay, so that's where it all started.
Had her own businesses, bought property. I think she was 21. And so we're talking in the 60s, a young female, single female buying.
Very unusual.
Residential property.
Go mum.
So just, wasn't from an affluent family, but just learnt the value of hard work, caring about outcomes, and simply having a go. And I think that's what she instilled in my brother and I, is just to show up every day, to care deeply and give it a go, which is
incredible, the habits and rituals you can get from your childhood. Yeah. And we all say you're a product of your environment, yes. But that impact when you're so young and how that comes through. Now, tell me, I have to go back for a minute. So you're saying about when you were younger and you're helping people with business and things. That's extraordinary. Tell me about that and then where that's morphed to what you're doing now.
Yeah, I remember, so it was a pet shop. I grew up in Newcastle, small family business. And I remember watching customers come in and just observing behaviour, what they were buying. They would rarely turn up for one thing. And I remember saying to my boss, and she was in her late 30s, I said, have we thought about bundling products together? Have we thought about bundling and pricing to meet more needs? And she looked at me and she said, I had no idea what you're talking about, but just have a go, put the signs up, tell me the profit you make, go ahead and do it. And I thought, this is pretty cool.
So how old were you when all this is going on?
I was about 16, I think, at the time. So it was my Saturday job, my Thursday night and Saturday job. And then I said to her, why aren't we trading Sundays? And she said, well, if you want, you can give it a try. And so Sunday trading had just started, showing my age now. And I said, let's just jump in and try it. We'll do some limited hours, give it a go, and we'll start, checking the profitability of Sunday trading and whether we should do it seasonally. So it was just great, the liberty and the ability to try things and experiment. But it comes back to being anchored in customer need. And I think that was the thing, even at a young age, I'd worked out.
It's incredible when you talk about their seasonal considerations, sitting back and observing what your customer's doing, their behaviours, what they want, what's better, trading on Sunday or during the week. I think there's a lot. That in itself is just like a business blueprint, right?
Yes. Yep.
Well, that's extraordinary. No wonder you've done so incredibly well in your career. I want to talk about your leadership lessons learned, and I want to talk about how you drive accountability, and I want to talk about how you foster performance metrics in your line of work, because I'm curious about the correlation with our industry. But again, if you wouldn't mind just taking us on a little journey of what then happened after the pet shop at 16, if that's okay.
Just a small part of my career. So beyond there, off to university, first part-time job was actually working for Colonial. So Colonial State Bank was franchising, and got to work with a franchisee who owned a number of the bank branches. And again, back to that entrepreneurial, it was their business. They wanted you to run it like it was your business, so that deep ownership. And so got to get involved with local area marketing and designing small campaigns at a local level under a big national brand.
What did you learn most about that?
Absolutely around demographics. So I think that was
understanding your customer base.
Absolutely, Carly. So understanding your customer base, that test and learn. So how you safely test and learn with campaigns based on your demographics. And when you've tested and you have failed, you rapidly learn, pull it and move on.
I think that's a key learning for our listeners. And I think it's something we don't do well in our industry. I think a lot of the time we do what we've always done and we don't measure it very well. So that test and learn and then rapidly able to change, adapt and be flexible is probably a very key learning. And I'm probably going to lead with that on this podcast today. I think that's incredibly important. Okay, then next,
Colonial said, why don't you think about joining a project in Victoria rolling out our supermarket banking project. So this was in an era where CommBank, I think, went with Woolworths to partner with Woolworths around providing financial services through supermarkets. And Colonial was one of 4 banks that partnered with Coles. And we opened up a branch inside a Coles supermarket. So imagine you've got your trolley heading through the gate. There to your left is a small footprint, full service bank branch with 2 staff that traded 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. and did everything from cash transactions through to debt, so home lending, and then also limited financial advice right next to the fruit and veg aisle.
How did that go?
This was another classic case of had to be in the right geography, the right customer base. And again, that learning, and it was a really great learning mindset, I think, from Colonial at the time and also Coles, around what would and wouldn't work in those geographies. So the first branch that I opened, hugely successful, very successful given the demographics. Some of the other sites, less successful.
I'd imagine there's not too many people that want to sit there and talk about their loans and their debts at the supermarket. But then I'm thinking of other areas and I'm thinking, I think that would work quite well while people go past their zucchini and broccoli. I'm probably curious now to have a little bit of a look at your journey around leadership, given this is a podcast around impact and influence on leadership. I think there's so much that we can learn from slowing down to speed up, but then sometimes that's paralyzing as well, right? Could you share with us straight up and then we'll work backwards?
Yep.
Your 3 biggest learnings to date in leadership and driving accountability?
Mm-hmm. I think the first one is clarity is everything. Providing clarity and appropriate context for your people is essential in allowing them to take agency and allowing them to be empowered to get on with it, but equally to be able to hold them accountable.
And how do you do that?
So it's appropriately sharing the broader leadership context, because obviously certain levels of leadership are privy to certain information, sharing that with the team to help them inform better decision making. It's being available to, I think, rapidly create clarity. So how do we, through what we call our scrums and our stand-ups, have rapid decision-making, problem-solving, and access to more information to be able to do that so you're not slowing your people down?
What sort of leader are you?
I'd love you to ask my team this question when you see them next. But
it's probably the best answer ever of any of the podcasts is how about you ask my team? It's like when you say, what's my culture like? But what sort of leadership styles do you naturally inherently fall back into or embrace? I am incredibly generous. So generous with time, not just to my immediate team, but to kind of any of my colleagues at CommBank in particular that might want to have a career conversation. So generous with my time, creative, and create I think, a safe place for people to experiment, to test, to learn, be curious, and pursue what we think is right for customer, and really holding on to customer first and customer at the heart of what we do. I think a juggle for a lot of people that will be listening to this, and probably any business owner, is the juggle between customer first and profit and sustainability, particularly depending on whether it's small business or you've got large scale business. Is there any advice that you give to anybody around that juggle? Oh, you listen to any, other business podcasts, you read other books, you'll say great customer experience delivers great shareholder value, and well-designed customer experiences should create productivity and efficiency. But it takes time to get there sometimes. So back to that testing and learning again, the ability to create great customer experiences will require you to test, learn, and iterate to ensure that you can get your processes lean, creates a great experience, but also creates that productive, cost-effective environment. And then equally around testing your pricing models and understanding customer response so that you're then delivering on shareholder value. So I see that they're all inextricably linked, but to get to the answer sometimes is that path of test and learn. It's really interesting when you say about, test and learn and get the feedback from the customer. I think something in our industry that we're really good at is getting ratings and reviews, but we're not good at getting the feedback from the customer. So quite often they say, like, look at me, how good I am. And I don't mean that to be awful because I did it in sales as well. Would you share with me a rating and review? But I believe that bad experience equals great experience. So I love that message of find out where the friction is from the customer and what's going on with the customer and make it good. And that clarity and context, because you're right, sometimes at the top of the food chain, good decisions aren't always popular and you can't share everything. And I think that's the hardest thing I see in our industry is people that have maybe been a high-performing sales agent that have gone into business ownership or leadership, potentially haven't had the leadership journey or the learnings that we've been fortunate enough to have. So on that note, before I ask you some rapid-fire questions, is what's had most impact for you around leaning in and stepping up in leadership besides your tertiary qualifications? I think you've just touched on it before. It's the failure moments. It's the moments where you've made not critical mistakes, but either judgment errors that haven't created harm to others. So poor judgment, moments where you potentially haven't looked at the data and you've gone with the gut and it hasn't paid off. So those learning moments, I think, are absolutely critical to shape you as a leader. Equally, the moments where you've had poor leadership, so where you have worked for leaders that wouldn't be making a podcast or wouldn't be writing a book, they are rich moments that can help you either put the mirror up and say, I don't want to be that as a leader, or actually I'm going to do the counter to that in how I respond to people. Like, incredibly invaluable. I know it's more important to know what you don't want to be rather than what you do want to be. I love that. Now, this is not, and you will kill me for even leaning into this and talking about CBA because it is a leadership podcast, but I'm really curious as a partner of Regrowth for you to talk for a moment about some of the things that you've been working on with your team to bring to industry to help with profit scale and efficiencies and relationships. I think it's so important. So is there any products or services that you'd like to talk about from a thought leadership or a leadership perspective in our industry that could help some of our listeners that they may not be across? Absolutely. I think the first one is thank you to you, Kylie, and to Regrowth, but also to so many people in the industry that we've now been working with who have been generous with their feedback and their time, because our number one starting point was always we are a bank. We need to deeply understand the industry that we're working with so that we do create solutions that add value and deliver real value. So that's been incredibly powerful, just understanding
how business works, how real estate business works. From that, we then have spent time with what we call our early adopters, a group of very generous CBA customers, real estate agencies, property managers, helping us build our new payment solution, so our smart real estate payment solution. That
when do we get a peek at this in the industry? Have we got any dates or?
There's been a few peaks. The curtains have been opened, but you'll be hearing more from us very, very soon.
And that for us will save us time, money, improve client experience. Any handy hints?
That's exactly it. So reconciliation, number one. So how do we remove the manual reconciliation, particularly at end of month, particularly around trust accounts? And that then allows for our property managers more time with customers, less time sitting in the back office trying to reconcile. So it will remove that manual effort and that touch. Creating better experiences for tenants. So for us, it was also looking at the whole ecosystem. Property manager, tenant, and landlord. How do we create, for the property managers, a better experience for their ecosystem as well? So for tenants using the smart agreements, it is a better experience through digital. And then casting our minds forward, we're going to be looking at how we use ID verification as well. We know the AML reforms are rapidly approaching, and it's a space that, as one of the early reporting agencies, we know that we can support and we can consider bringing new solutions to market.
Okay, well, we wait with bated breath. That'll be very exciting. I'm going to get into some rapid fire now because it's hard to believe that we've only got about 10 minutes left. Either personally or professionally, if it's okay, a pivotal moment for you in your career and in life, and what did you learn from it?
Pivotal moment was the arrival of our son, Beau. So we adopted Beau when he was 2 years of age, and that has been, so it's been 11 years now, and an absolute whirlwind. Full of joy, but incredible lows, incredible highs, but has taught me a lot, not just as a mother, but I think as a leader and just as a human being, around inclusivity, tolerance, understanding. And I have a whole new level of appreciation when I'm in a supermarket and I can see a toddler throwing themselves on the ground and a parent that just stands there and deep breathes. I worship those parents now.
Take your hat off to them.
I totally do, because I used to be the one that would stand and judge. Now I'm like,
it's amazing, isn't it? You know, and I could see how emotional you were getting then. Like, it's obviously, the greatest gift that they're given, but they don't come with a handbook.
No.
So that's quite an interesting learning. But what I'm going to take from that too, besides the fact I saw how beautifully emotional you got talking about him, which was lovely, is taking advice from those that matter. And I think, everyone loves to give advice, and unfortunately in Australia sometimes people, tall poppy syndrome, etc., which can affect where you go, and imposter syndrome and what you tell yourself in life. You've obviously had some great people around you. We know that your mum was a legend. You've got a great son. It sounds like you've got a supportive network. How important is your tribe, and how important is it to get a mentor?
I think your tribe is essential. I think having people around you that are honest with you, and sometimes the tough love is the love that you need, that really constructive feedback at the right time. A tribe that also sees the best in you and brings the best out of you. And then the group that will help propel you forward. I don't think it's purely a female issue of saying, I can't do it, I'll wait till it's perfect. I think it's male, female, it's everyone. But having a group of people behind you that will help push you forward and say, just give it a go.
It's where you're in the right room, right? And I love the fact that you say it's not about male and female, and we don't want to make about that. It's like we all get imposter syndrome, and the reality is when you tell yourself a story, it can sometimes become your reality. So I think that's great advice, is having people around you that will push you, give you feedback, good, bad, and indifferent. That's where it comes from, a place of love and respect, and people wanting the best thing for you, right?
Good intent, absolutely.
Okay, you ready? We're going to buckle up for some rapid fire.
All right.
Here we go. Best advice to our listeners to develop and nurture habits and rituals?
Just start. Simply start.
And when's a good time to start?
Now.
Succession planning. When does it start, and how long does it take? What sort of investment and what sort of advisors do you need around you?
I would say from the minute you either start the business or start in the role, you need to be thinking of, how do I ensure continuity today, and then in growth in the future, what does that look like and who are the people that I need in this business? And you hit the nail on the head. The right advisors, the people that will bring in external perspective and really challenge you on that plan, remove some of the emotional ties that we often have around succession, absolutely invaluable.
Fantastic. When everyone doesn't agree with you around the table, you know you're in the right room. Kerryn, General Manager of Transaction Banking and Growth.
Yep.
My goodness, what does your day or week look like?
It's varied. Like I know a lot of people say that. As I mentioned before, I've come from our quarterly planning today where we get into multiple rooms across the bank. Everyone stops to plan and deeply understand what we're going to deliver to customers in the next quarter. Deeply understand what's not working and what is working and how do we make things right for customers. So I will go from that to client meetings when I leave here, and then I'll be jumping into risk committees tomorrow. So it's never a dull moment, but what I love is lots of time with customer.
And is that your favourite part about the job?
That's the part that gives me energy. If I think about what gets me leaping out of bed, it's customers.
So we're actually recording this last thing in the afternoon. So, you know, our energy, we're still trying to keep it high for everybody. But talking about energy as a leader, when so many people look to you as the Chief Energy Officer or for direction or for that clarity, how do you keep your energy, and what wisdom would you depart to all of us today?
I'm going to start with the wisdom is knowing when your energy is depleting and taking time to top it back up again. I've been notorious to just keep pushing on, push through, you'll be right, keep working the hours. And I have a wonderful colleague I work with who will often be my energy check, and she'll say, you're a bit flat at the moment. It's time for you to recharge. And so having someone around you that can tell you your energy levels are depleted and that's how you're showing up is really invaluable.
Amazing.
So precious to have that. And taking those regular breaks. I think that's been a mistake I've made in my career where it's just, I'll do 60-hour weeks for 6-7 months. It's okay. I can keep going.
I'm bulletproof.
Correct. And there is no award for, working the most hours or, turning the lights off in the office. It's about the outcomes, and you're not going to deliver the outcomes unless you bring your best self to work.
Exactly right. And I think that takes planning, right? So if you're juggling a family, you're juggling such a big role like you are as yourself, it's that old saying about failing to plan. But I think how much planning is required for someone in your role and with respect to leave, and then making sure that things still operate while you're away. What does that look like?
So I do plan my leave actually in advance for that very reason.
How far in advance?
About 9-10 months in advance.
That's right, everybody. 19 months in advance. Everyone always compliance, Kylie. But I think it's so important. Yeah.
Absolutely. Because you can plan your business around it. And for me, I've got an incredible group of leaders in my team and an incredible team that carries on and does a phenomenal job while I'm gone. But it allows us time to plan for that and then remove any blockers before I head off.
I'm just gobsmacked about the 19 months. I thought I was good, a year in advance, but you give me something to benchmark myself towards now. I've got 2 more questions before we wrap, if that's okay. Mm-hmm. What are you proud of in your professional career and your personal career? And I say personal career because I don't think we put enough emphasis on what we do outside for family, parenthood and friends either. So professional career and personal career.
I think I'm going to start personally, and I would say it is my son. He's an incredible, I'm not going to say little boy because he towers over me at 13, but also the relationship with my incredible husband who chose to leave corporate life to support our son because he had additional needs, special needs. So having this great family unit at home that is supportive of everyone's needs, but equally my career and then our family's career and our well-being. I'm incredibly fortunate and grateful for that and proud of that. And then inside my career, I think the last 19 years with CommBank have been absolutely exceptional, and that has nothing to do with me. I think it's the incredible people I work with and the leadership at CommBank and this anchoring to customer. And I'm sure I've said the word customer at least 60 times in the last 20 minutes, but this deep focus on customer and what we've been able to deliver, the experience we've created, the resilience, the financial well-being for customers, that matters. and knowing you're getting out of bed every morning to make someone's future brighter, and now particularly working with the real estate industry, homes for all Australians, that's a lot to be proud of.
Lovely way to finish, I think, with why you're so, A, successful, but B, is what the passion that you show is so authentic, and that comes across. And I think that's important for our listeners. If you love what you do, they say you never work a day in your life. I'd like to wrap on 12 key points, if it's okay, that we took away. And we might put some links into the interview today where people can go and get some more information on it. Be generous with your time. As a leader, I always say make time for your people or somebody else will. So I loved that. The customer first centric approach, and leaning back and listening and learning from your customer, creating clarity and context to help drive accountability. Very hard to drive accountability if people aren't clear on what they've got to do and when they've got to do it by, but more importantly, the context behind it.
Yes.
And then linking the context to what's important for them as well, I'm sure. Test and learn. That's mine for today. So, Kerryn, just because you're from outside of industry, I won't miss this opportunity. Handy hint as a consumer and as a professional in business, what can we do better or something really basic that we could get right?
Oh, that's a great question, Carly. I think from observing my neighbour's property that's now currently listed is for the listing agents not to park their cars out the front of the property.
The basics, right?
I would have thought it was a basic. We live on a small cul-de-sac street. The feeder street has no street parking. So occupying the first 3 parks out the front of the property makes the street look incredibly busy and that there's no on-street parking.
And let me guess, there's more than one person from this agency coming to the open home, right?
At least 3.
Right, so we've got 3 cars in a small cul-de-sac. We are annoying the neighbours and we may not get called in. What a wonderful handy hint.
It's my now first screening question, I think, when I go to list my property.
Lean processes. Tell me a little bit about that.
I worked for a DuPont, so global company, and we loved Six Sigma and Lean. So
Please repeat.
Six Sigma, so our lean engineering and lean process development, process mapping. So taking those principles into everything that we do. So being lean, removing errors and failure rates out of processes, absolutely invaluable in delivering on that great experience.
So failure moments, learning. I loved that because that could relate to leaders that you've worked with before and the failure of that relationship or what they did and take you away and learning from that. But your failure moment, what did I learn from it? How do I stop it happening again? Why did it happen?
Yes.
You know, the pub test, looking yourself in the mirror and like, could I have done anything else or did I do everything I could have as a leader? Feedback, getting it from people that matter and getting it and letting it sit. How important do you think that is, letting it sit?
Bathing it, you're right. You sit, you bathe, you absorb it, but you then take what is most relevant to you. Because I think there is lots of feedback to be given. It is a gift. People are very generous with gifts, but take what is most relevant and pertinent at that time.
Yeah. More time with your customers. I reckon that's a great one for anyone listening today. We do the transaction and we have these great nurture programs and client for life programs, but be very careful, everyone listening, not to let tech get in the way of that relationship and that connection and spending more time with the customer. You were saying last night that you came here from a client function where you got to spend some time with some wonderful customers and hearing what their frustrations were and how successful they've become. Tribe is essential. Succession plans start today. Deeply understand your customer, your processes, what you're doing well, what you're not doing well. And it's interesting, actually published an article today in REB on what's holding it back. And there is a bit of a common thread with some of the things that you talked about today. But I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for the time that you give REGROWTH. Thank you for the time you're giving the industry to understand us and how to help support us, because I don't think that's something that we've had in this space for a very long time. Kerryn, congratulations on your career and thank you for coming and joining us today.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Impact and Influence. Click follow to get notified about future episodes. Leaving a review helps others find the podcast. And to learn more about our courses, our study tours, conferences, keynote topics and our services, or how simply we might be able to help support you in taking you to places you never thought possible, please visit regrowthkylewalsh.com.